and part of the reason I liked it was because I'm big on making sure that when you get to the end of a series or the end of an arc, that there actually is sense to that arc. Anybody that's heard me talk knows how much I love railing on Heroes and Lost about how it started off really good, but as you got on in the series, you could tell they really had no clue about where they were going, and it just started feeling like you were wasting your time. I really liked how when you got to Endgame, you could see that all the 10 years of planning that they really actually knew where they were going the whole time. And as a fan, I respected that. And kind of like what Chuck said, there's some things you can pick apart about it, especially in the timeline. But at least from a payoff perspective, you felt like you weren't wasting your time when you did get the payoffs that you were looking for.
And Stephanie or Steph?
I just saw it last night, and so I'm digesting it a little bit still. So I'm not as far removed out from it. I've only seen it once, so my take on it is probably going to be a little bit different than everybody else's. I agree wholeheartedly with Chuck, though. I just want to go and enjoy a movie, and if there's payoff, the thing that I love the best, I think, is that there were so many callbacks to all of the other movies that we have spent the last 10 years watching, to see the different perspectives, to know that they have had this plan from the beginning was really, really awesome. I love that. I smiled and I laughed the whole time every time there was a reference. So that's my big takeaway, being like 12 hours removed from seeing the movie at this point. So.
And Mr. Grant.
I will admit to crying 3.5 times during the movie.
Yes.
I did cry. My wife thinks I'm a punk. I do have some concerns, some questions. I think the movie left me with more questions than I thought I was going to get everything was going to get sold up, and they left a couple of strands that are loose. And I nitpick a lot of stuff, but overall, I mean, the movie was a fantastic movie, a good way to close out 22 movies and open up for the next chapters.
Now, I enjoyed it. I'm not going to lie. The first thing I said is that it's definitely worth watching. I have problems, though. As I'm unlike Chuck, I can't as a writer, because I'm so trained to be a writer now, and I've become a story editor for so many people. When I trip on a problem, it's there in my face. And I'm like, oops, you guys just made a mistake. Now, as we're going to begin this debate, something has changed. And the reason that we waited all the way until today, we even didn't do it yesterday to make sure Chuck could be on here. And it's a good thing, because yesterday the Spider-Man trailer came out, and we found out that what they're saying is that they're no longer in the same timeline. Now, this makes me nervous, because this smells like a reboot just waiting to happen at any time, because it's what they do to their comic universe. But it also introduces the possibility that we could see the X-Men, Fantastic Four, all those other characters we've been dying to see come rushing in. So I'm excited in that regard. Now, the first question I got to ask you, and this is important, whether the timelines are the same or not, here's an important question. Did Captain America make out with his niece? And did she know it was him? That was one thing that instantly bothered me about the film. So we go back to Captain America. His niece now, because they would be married, is flirting with him, and did she have something for her uncle? Like, did that bother anyone else? Because that jolted me in that moment. I like the whole Captain America thing, but that moment bothered me. Because even if he still made out with his niece, even if there's different timelines, because he winds up marrying Peggy Carter.
He absolutely did it. I'll go first. He absolutely did. He's a nasty old man. And, he's from now on. His name is Creepy Uncle Steve. And, I mean, yeah, I think that. I mean, but Cap got his happy ending.
Yes.
And so I think. Yeah, phrasing. I think that. I think that outweighs, what he did, but. Yeah, I mean, the thing was, it seemed like they were reluctant to move on to the Sharon Carter romance. They didn't want to. I mean, she did, what, 1 movie, 2 movies? Was she in 2? Or just the 1 movie? Civil War?
2. She was Civil War, and the one before that, she was watching her.
Yeah, so it's like they were kind of reluctant to move on to her and make her, his love interest. And he was still pining for Peggy movie after movie. So,
All right, what about the rest of you guys? Any thoughts on that?
I didn't have any thoughts about the niece thing, but I definitely thought that it was kind of odd that I'm like, so in this timeline, were there two Captain Americas in this timeline when they got to the end, and how was he able to keep himself away from the Captain America that everybody else knew in this timeline? And if there wasn't another Captain America in this timeline, how is everything still exactly the same when they got to that scene at the end with the bench? So that was one of the things that kind of made my timeline crapometer start to tingle a little bit, that I felt like it was a little too convenient and there was no other, it was a little too easily wrapped up for him to just be able to sit there. I was like, no big deal, no other changes in that timeline.
Well, I mean, to what you're saying, I definitely agree. There were no ripples, which is what we're used to with timelines. And if Cap has been there, that means he let a lot of bad things happen without giving the Avengers a head up and without warning people, and that's bad. But if it is a different timeline, whole shenanigans going on with what they're trying to do, it definitely feels like this movie was forced to become to a close because the Russos were leaving. Like, oh, we're done playing with these toys. We want our magic ending, and we're gone. Because it feels like there's no direction for the next Avengers film. Would you guys agree with that? Like, it kind of feels like they kind of made this big toy and dropped it on the floor and broke it.
I don't know that I would agree with that. I think there's a lot of things that you can play with, and really what I feel like we're getting now is we're getting another brand new Avengers. You know, when the first Avengers came out, there was no direction. We had no idea who the big bad was going to be, and I feel like we're just getting that again. The only difference is 22 and even more by that point movies to be able to pull characters from and other storylines from. So I feel like they wrapped up this big phase, this big section, but they can easily play with so much more to do something else.
Rodney from our chat room says, "Well, Luke kissed his sister twice. I guess it's true. Disney likes incest. What can I say?"
Damn you, mouse.
Damn you, mouse. But with the whole timeline thing, I think that the writers didn't know how to explain the timeline thing. It feels like what they do in Marvel, where they don't explain it and they just want you to go along with it.
I don't know that I agree with that. I feel like the timeline actually runs fairly smoothly. It's just these little wrinkles that we have to kind of either get over or understand that they happened and whatever. You're going to have to just deal with it, you know? And which, okay, I can understand it's a little frustrating, but in the grand scope of what happened and in the grand scope of what Cap deserved as a character, I get the decision, and I'm, you know, it sucks to a point, but I'm fine with not worrying about did he make out with his niece and all that kind of stuff, because he got a perfect ending. I don't want to deal with 20 minutes of trying to explain a freaking timeline, which actually they've said that they're considering doing in like a director's cut or something like that. But I'm not interested in watching 20 minutes of that to better enjoy something that was already a perfect ending. That's how Captain America should end. Steve Rogers should end every time. He deserves that. He shouldn't die with his boots on. He should die living, being a man.
So you don't think he should have died a soldier? You think
No.
Okay. Well, I think a lot of anyone disagree with that.
I actually really agree with what Chuck is saying. I think that was look, it's comics. If you look through comics, it's almost like a soap opera. How many times have characters died and come back to life? There's just, when I go into something like that, there's a little bit of, I have to suspend belief just a little bit. And I don't necessarily give as much argument to timelines and ripples and time travels as I would something that's trying to be cerebral about it. It's comics. It's fun. They gave him, he was happy. He was happy. He was an old man sitting on a bench and he was happy. I think I don't think you can ask for much more than that.
All right. So no one has a problem with what Cap did, right?
Well,
I have issues with what Cap did. I do have some issues with it. Okay, here's the thing. I read too many comics. I've been reading comics since I was, I'm now 37 years old. So I've been reading comics for a while, and that just seemed kind of out of character for Cap. To want to go back and live out this life. But again, we're looking. This is a movie. This isn't comic book Captain America. This is my comic book Captain America remains unchanged. That's not really true either. But anyway, he's the characters in the comics are still there. So it's not like it's this deal breaker. It's a adaptation of those characters.
All right.
But I guess my only problem is that just seems like it was out of character for Cap. But again, this is movie Cap. This is MCU Cap. This isn't the Cap that I've been reading since I was a little boy. So
I'm glad you can separate that.
There is an interesting point being made though in our chat room. Someone said, "Well, what if it opens the doors?" And this is from Rodney. He said, "What if it opens the door for some more Captain America solo movies? Maybe we are missing something. Maybe something happened on his timeline where there was reasons he wasn't part of the MCU. Maybe he was doing something else and he was distracted by something. Maybe he found a bigger problem in the past that we never knew existed." So we don't really know, that's the truth. Sometimes as Steph said, sometimes with comic books, you got to we don't fully know it until we know it. And sometimes, look at the whole Hydra thing. We didn't know Hydra existed in the MCU until it did. And it changed everything. And that was a cute scene in the elevator where he goes, "Hail Hydra." I thought that played a lot into fan base. I thought that excited a lot of people. Because the comic book fans in the room got excited. Because they knew what it was a reference to. They knew they were making fun of the comic books for doing it. And they loved it and they ate it up. But, okay, so let's pretend that the timelines are fine and all that. Here's the big mistake I see. And no one's brought it up, but it has to be talked about. Loki. What's going on? Loki got the gem. Loki disappeared. What does that mean? Like, you can't get it back. That genie's out of the bottle. Does that mean...
simply meant that Loki's getting a new show on Disney Plus.
But I said the same thing to Steph last night. I'm like, Loki left with the gem, and there was no explanation. I'm like, they definitely left that door wide open for a big Loki spinoff. What's going to go on in Loki's version of the timeline? I thought it was kind of cool because they left that little door open. But at the same time, I can see how it's also a problem because now there's another version of that stone out there somewhere.
Yeah, and there couldn't be two stones, right? Like now I'm totally confused and I don't know what to do with it. But more importantly, does that Loki get transported to a destroyed Asgard? Does he not know everything that's happened? Like, does he go back and find out everything is destroyed? Is that what that series looks like?
How did they get that time? Sorry, I'm just trying to... Okay, yeah, okay, sorry. I was just trying to think back. How did they get that stone? But that was in the 1970s, so okay.
Yeah, they go back to the 70s, and supposedly Captain America puts back all the stones that they got. But you still get to that moment in the timeline where now Loki has stolen the stone that the Infinity Gauntlet uses. But forgetting that for a moment, just the fact that Loki's stepped out of the timeline, would that mean that he potentially steps into an alternate world which doesn't have Asgard? Because at the same time everything happens, the fall of Asgard only happens like a few years later.
I think in that point, what we have to do is we have to go to the Sorcerer Supreme's little example that she made. Remember when she had that line and she took out the one stone and suddenly it went black? It's kind of the same idea. So we take out the blue gem and suddenly we have a new line. So I think that's a new timeline.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so let's talk about the things you guys really liked about the movie. I'll start. I did like the Captain America ending, but what got me most excited about the entire future was, believe it or not, Thor joining the Guardians of the Galaxy. And first off, with the whole fat thing, I thought that was a really important part of the story. The fact that he let himself go. as a man who hurt my back, who was very muscular, and after I hurt my back, gained weight because I got depressed, I thought it was a true depiction of what happens. You know, and I think the way that they're trying to put it against Marvel's bullshit. There was a real human moment in there, and I'm gonna have to edit myself. I had the potty mouth. Usually it's Chuck, but that's how excited I was. I'm gonna have to put a bleep on myself, but it'll be worth it because it is. I don't like the fan outcry about the fat shaming because I didn't think it was fat shaming. I thought it was an honest depiction of what happens.
I think what frustrated me, my kiddo was talking to me about it, and they said, what about the fat shaming and the PTSD? I feel like they're making fun of it. I said, no. When you laugh at it, in a way, you're making fun of it. They're not. They handled it honestly. The PTSD, it can manifest in lots of different ways. And the sad thing about PTSD is or any mental illness, if you don't know immediately what that is, it's something that can be laughable. And I'm not saying that it's funny because I suffer from my own stuff, Tourette's and anxiety and other stuff. And it seems funny on the outside. And then when you suddenly realize what it is, it's like, oh, okay. And I think it's handled that way appropriately. It's just up to the audience to eventually go, oh, yeah, that's right. This was a little tougher of a moment than we gave it credit for. It wasn't, we can still laugh at it, but then we still need to understand what it is and what he was going through.
Anyone else?
I thought it's one of my favorite parts of the movie, and I'm going to say, as the only woman on this panel, I will never say that I speak for all women. I've seen a lot of outcry from women that want Thor's old body back. I would never speak for all women. I speak for myself. And as a woman, I appreciated that because it was realistic. And what some women, say they like and they want to go see a movie with, a bunch of guys with abs or whatever. There's plenty of movies out there for them. They can go and see those movies, but that's not me. And I appreciated the commentary on his depression, what it did to him. I loved it. I enjoyed it. I thought he looked great. So that was my opinion. I'm definitely not of I'm going to speak for all women, and I miss the abs, and I think that is a very unrealistic and not very nice point of view. That's how I'll say it.
I'm sorry, Rob, did I cut you off?
No, I didn't say anything. You're good. Go for it.
There is Thor has gone through so much crap. Almost cussed. Almost had body mouth. The last couple of movies. I mean, he's been his character's been pretty much abused, and then he's lost his mother, his father, his brother, his home, his hammer. He had to kill his sister, broke up with his girlfriend, and then essentially failed to kill Thanos. So this PTSD, as a character, you can understand why he, kind of sat back and just started drinking and got the beer gut. And I like the way that, again, I agree with Steph. I like the way they handled it because, even when he, I guess, kind of got his courage back or tried to see things straight, he didn't, even when he transformed into Thor again, he didn't instantly have a six pack again. He still had his belly, and he still
kicked butt. So
yeah. I mean, he had dad bod, and speaking of, I don't want to change the subject, but I seen something else online that I think we need to address. There are, and maybe Stephanie can she can chime in on this. There are a lot of women who thinks that they believe this is the sexiest that Hulk has ever been.
Hulk?
Hulk?
Yeah. There are women calling him Daddy Hulk.
Yeah, I don't know where you hang out, man, but you hang out in some weird places.
I can get on board with a fat Thor, but I don't know about I'm not into that kind of stuff.
You wouldn't go green? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know if I would go green. I'm not,
I actually really like the Thor depiction kind of tacking on what you guys are saying, and here's part of the reason why I liked it so much. To me, one of two characters in the movie that I felt like really showed reality, showed stuff that we could relate to. One of the biggest problems I've always had with the Marvel universe is things like New York City gets destroyed every single movie, and how can they rebuild New York City so quickly? I mean, it's just ridiculous how outside of the ability for us to be able to relate. I mean, we can't relate to a superhero doing super things. We can't relate to people having unending money like Iron Man, and we can't relate to people like Guardians of the Galaxy going back to the beginning of time and stopping the person who created time, which to me was going so far, jumping the shark. But Thor, like you said, had a real moment. His friends saw him having a real moment, and his friends came to help him because he didn't even understand what he was going through, and he needed his people to come and help him get out of his depression and his PTSD. And I thought that was really cool. That's something everybody can relate to, whether you're a fan of abs Thor, fat Thor, you hate Thor, you could relate to that. I thought that was really cool.
No, that's true. And the whole dad bod thing, first off, I was told by a girl dad bods are sexy. I hope it's true because I definitely have a dad bod. But secondly, and more importantly to the whole topic that we have going on right now with this whole thing with Thor and him not being a sex symbol and all that, if you just boil it down to the simple nitty grittiness of it, we got to see a character development of a character that was powerful, and he goes through this thing, and you talk about toxic masculinity. Here's a character having emotions, and his friends are going to make fun of him because that's what we do, but they also care about him. The friends are trying to push him into the direction, and it kind of needs that moment with his mom to kind of get him back on track. And it was a beautiful moment because it showed the vulnerability of a male character, something we don't see. And what does everyone focus on? Well, he doesn't have the abs he does. Why can't he have the abs he does? Shut up. Did you watch the rest of that story and how beautiful it was? How he needed his mom because he never got to say goodbye to his mom? Like, that was such a powerful moment. And I think it cheapens it. Go ahead, Chuck. What do you got?
His face when Mjolnir came back to him, that was beautiful. Because he was worthy again.
Yep.
And he had not believed himself to be worthy. And so he puts all of his self-worth, so much of his self-worth, into how his family feels about him. Remember, his father gave him that hammer and said, "He who is worthy." And so now in this movie, both his mother and father have effectively told him, "You're worthy." And so that's kind of, in my mind, that was his family saying, "No, dude, you're fine. Just get back out there and do you." And I love that.
Now, if everyone's done with this, anyone want to chime in any more about Dad Bod Thor? That's what I'm calling him, Dad Bod Thor from here on out. Let's talk about being worthy of wielding the hammer. Who got super excited when they saw that hammer get thrown and followed it back to, of all people, Captain America, taking us back to the original Avengers movie, or that second movie, the Age of Ultron, where they're all trying to pick up the real first Avengers movie, because it's the first time they are the Avengers, really. But when he tries to pick that up, and people have made this argument, well, how come Cap couldn't pick it up? And that was because Cap was conflicted back then. If you're actually following Captain America at that point, he wasn't pure of heart right there. He was dealing with a lot of, I don't like this world. We won, but what did we lose? That's the captain that we have, as opposed to the captain in Endgame, who is focused. He has a goal. He understands who he is. He understands the world he wants to see to come. He's finally really the Captain America for comics for the first time ever. When he puts back on that uniform, that's the Captain America we've been hoping for all these series.
Yeah.
So,
he's worthy.
What do you guys think? How did you react to that moment?
For me, it was total glee. It was like, it was, as a writer, I appreciated the character arc. I'm glad that they chose to do it in that movie. There was a reason for it. It wasn't just for spectacle. It wasn't just to be cool and show, hey, Cap can now wield, there was a reason for it, and it was well thought out, and for that I appreciated it versus him just randomly doing it halfway through the series and them trying to find some sort of big gratuitous. It wasn't. There was no gratuity to it. There was meaning behind it.
Varian, what do you think?
I ruined that moment for myself because I watched those leaked clips.
Oh,
So I knew it was gonna happen, but I've read a theory online that said that the reason why he couldn't lift it in Age of Ultron was because he had known that Bucky had been behind the death of Tony's parents.
yep.
And that's why he was unable until after that to lift it. So at any point after that, he could have lifted it after Winter Soldier. But I thought it was a cool moment. I liked it. The Avengers Assemble scene is one of the ones where I teared up at, thanks to the guy next to me. It was totally his fault.
What do you think, Matt? What did you think when you saw the hammer get passed?
I thought that was actually kind of cool just to see somebody else finally able to wield it in a moment that it really needed to. It wasn't like it was just some random moment in a movie, like Steph said, that was gratuitous. It was like somebody needed to be able to do it right then, so that way Thanos was kind of caught off guard, and so it happened at a perfect time to where what people were expecting was going to happen wasn't what happened, and it was a good climax moment, I believe.
Chuck, what did you think?
I think, and most of us here are writers on some level. I think we can all agree that point was the end of Steve Rogers as Captain America. You can't make him any cooler than wielding Mjolnir. You just can't. So at that point, had there been commercials, I'm sure we all could have stopped and went, "Oh man, how do you get any better than that? You can't. Like, he's got to be done." You know what I mean? If we'd had a moment to digest, I think we all would have been able to come to that idea and that end. So yeah, man, I loved it. I thought it was amazing, and I thought it helped to make his ending that much better, because that's a level of epicness that no human can possibly grasp, and yet Steve Rogers was better than all of us, and that's why it's amazing.
Well, I don't think having the hammer implies betterness. I want to point that out because Thor has the hammer, and I don't think Thor's better than me most days. I think Thor makes some decisions I wouldn't. I think it's about purity of heart more than anything else, and it's the worthiness to wield it. I don't think it makes it better, and I think Captain America as a character would never want to be better than anyone else. He's the guy who's willing to jump on the grenade. And speaking of jumping on that grenade, what about that writing story arc? To give credit where credit's due, going all the way back where Captain America and Iron Man are fighting, and Captain America says to him, "You're not willing to jump on the grenade." We finally get to that moment where Tony jumps on the grenade.
Well, but actually, you're missing the other line in that moment, and the other line was Tony saying to Cap, "Everything good about you came from a bottle," and they proved both of those wrong.
Yeah,
that's what I love about that scene.
Yeah, it's true. That's true because Thor gets the hammer. I mean, Cap gets the hammer that didn't come from a bottle. That's a good point. Actually, I've never heard anyone make that point. Solid point to Chuck for that one. But what do you guys think, man? Iron Man sacrificing himself. What did you guys think about that? I know a lot of people are trying to figure out how he got the gauntlet to be made. A lot of people are now theorizing it's vibranium. He got that vibranium. Is that how they say it? The thing that
vibranium.
Yeah. He gets that after his part. Yeah. He gets that from the partnership with the Black Panther, which makes sense because now he's got the bleeding Iron Man outfit that's nanotech that comes from them. So that all makes sense. So let's just say he can make the gauntlet, which I get. Let's talk about the death part. What do you guys think of that? Tony's gone.
I personally love it because I feel like is that his character more than any other character was the least relatable character in the whole series. And all I just mean is he's got so much money. He can do so many things. He's so far above what the normal person can relate to that what he did in that moment made him the most relatable person. He had the most that was there. He had the most sacrifice. If he was to go and give himself for everyone, he was making the biggest sacrifice of everyone because he had so much at stake. He's the one that that funded the buildings where everybody gets together as the Avengers. He's the one that brings a lot of those people together. And so for him to do that and to give up his life with his family that he had now chosen, to me showed another real human moment that we really needed from Marvel.
What do you think, Aaron?
Oh man, it was. I didn't cry during Logan, and Wolverine's a favorite character.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't cry when I didn't cry, but when Tony snapped his fingers and laid against that rock, and you had Tom Holland and Gwyneth Paltrow come over there and crying. Yeah, the waterworks are going. I knew that. And I think because Tony's the character we all started this journey with, this MCU journey.
Yeah.
And so that definitely pulled on the heartstrings a bit. I hope that they figure a way to bring him back. Well, even an AI Tony at this point would be okay.
Well, before we go into the future, because I definitely want to talk about your thoughts on the future of the MCU. You okay, Chuck? You dying on us?
Almost.
All right. Do you guys want to talk about anything else that we might have missed? We're at a 35-minute mark, so this is a good time to bring anything else up that maybe we didn't bring up.
I do.
Is this Hulk? Is this sexy Hulk again?
No. This is another one of Tony's contributions to the MCU. I want to know what type of phones. You may have seen this on my page. What type of phones Tony has invented in the MCU? Apparently, he invented a phone. Or Hawkeye pays his wife's cell phone bill for 5 years and keeps the phone charged.
Well, the argument in that is the fact that when everyone's recreated, they have everything that they disappeared with. So if she had her phone on her, she would have the phone the minute she came back into existence. And think, if you were just gone for 5 years, because the implication is that everyone knows they disappeared. There's no doubt about that. Everyone felt them being snapped out of reality. Now, forgetting the religious aspects of what that means, I guess there was no heaven, according to Marvel, for a lot of these characters, because no one had mentioned it. They just show back up. Or maybe there was no heaven because they were coming back and it just, they time jumped between the Ash to come back. Whatever it was, they all come back dressed. They all come back in the same clothing. So I think that's a pretty plausible answer, that you just came back with what you left. So apparently she had her phone on her. I'm assuming that, or when she showed up, she plugged it into the wall and it worked. Because it kind of looks like Hawkeye just walks away from that house and never goes back.
He paid the electric bill and come now.
Well, it looks like everything's falling apart. Like, the one thing I had a problem with the movie, and we haven't brought this up yet, and it's a good point you brought up. I don't see humanity falling apart like that. Half the people could die and we'd survive. World War II proved that. And I think the fact that we fell apart so much was not true to human nature. I think we go through really horrible periods as humans and we just accept it and we move on. The fact that we didn't move on in that movie, I think, was a discredit to writing. What do you guys think about that? I don't think human nature can be snuffed out that easily.
I'd like to see them handle the ramifications of fixing the snap.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, there are people who, imagine that lady who comes back into her bedroom and sees another woman laying there asleep. Her husband's remarried. Yeah. And I've got 2 kids. Or who? I don't. There's so many questions that need to be answered now. But well, I don't know.
Yeah, when you just want to bring, hey, we just want to bring the people back. But like you said, that just bringing the people back is not the end of everything. That's actually the start of a whole new set of insane things. Because if you didn't have food being produced for those people, and now you've got literally 4 billion people that are coming back that need food and clean water and stuff like that, you're setting yourself up for a lot of issues. So I do think that they painted that a little too fairy tale like, oh, we're just going to bring these people back, half of the population, and everything's just going to go back to normal and we're going to be okay. I think that it was a little cartoony in that respect. I think it would just be that simple for them to come back and it just be all good for everybody.
Tony Stark just created world hunger.
Exactly.
Well, you also have a lot of people who are displaced at this point. They're not even in their homeland. Their family shows back up from the reverse snap, and they're not there. They're in America. 'Cause remember all the boats in what is it? The where's the Statue of Liberty? What's the island it's on? Is it Ellis Island?
Oh,
Liberty Island.
Liberty Island. You have all those boats around Liberty Island. Clearly, people have come from other parts of the country or the world. So people aren't where they're supposed to be. Just imagine that traveling nightmare where suddenly people are scrambling to get to where they're supposed to be. Plus what? Trash doesn't get picked up in 5 years? Where does that work in any scenario? What is this, Walking Dead?
Uh-oh, don't be trying to have a crossover there because we'll never hear the end of it.
I also, we talked about Spider-Verse. I mean, Spider-Verse. Oh gosh, Spider-Man: Far From Home. But I kind of find it unrealistic that none of Peter's closest classmates got snapped. I mean, that didn't get snapped. Like somebody should have aged out.
Well, you'll have that one character who's like 24 now, and not like you guys are such kids. Like really, you act like 13, 15-year-olds. They're like, but we are 15. Gee, gosh, golly. Now,
I think it could be. You could play with some fun things where some of the characters that we didn't get to see in Spider-Man, we can now see in there because they survived the snap. So, crap. Why am I forgetting this? His original best friend,
the
Green
kid?
Goblin,
Harry.
Mm-hmm. So, how cool would it be if Harry survives the snap? He was actually 5 years younger, so he was 10 or 11 when all this went down, and now here he is in high school with the rest of them the same age.
Wait a minute, was Harry in the new Spider-Man?
No.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. So now suddenly we'll have a Harry show up that didn't have a Harry before that. Now my bigger question is, can Spider-Man buy alcohol now?
He's 15 or
no,
16.
He's not, because if you do have the 5 years, all these characters are 5 years older, right? What implications does that have? You literally have 16-year-olds going to buy firearms. This is not a good thing, Marvel. Florida just got more dangerous.
16, so I was doing that anyways.
You're from Canada. You don't believe in guns.
Oh, 2 guns. I wanted to get drunk.
Oh, okay. But you're from Canada. The drinking age is 16 in Canada.
19, but yeah, close enough. When you're 16 and you have a beard, you're good.
All right, so let's talk about the future, because we've kind of drifted there. First off, before we talk about the future, let's just take a moment for Black Widow, the most underused character ever in the MCU. Treated like the girl got passed around, did not have a great moment in all the series, downplayed her all the time. Let's give her credit, man. She had a strong end. She actually finally had her moment.
I think a lot of people whined about her not having a funeral, and I think they should have given her something, even if they had like one of her tools or something, there to show off. They should have had some moment, but I think to have a funeral for her would have been a little inappropriate to that character, because that's not who she is. She didn't exist as far as she was concerned. So,
all right, fair enough. What do you guys think about that? Black Widow, do you think that she never got the fair treatment in the movies that she should have gotten for a strong female character?
Well, I don't know if not only was there not a funeral, but there was really no mention, I think, at all, ever, by anybody about her after that. It's just she died and that was it. And I know that was kind of in the middle of this big, but there was a lot of wrap up at the end, and I mean, unless I missed it, I don't think anybody even lamented anything about her or mentioned anything. So maybe a little mention would have been nice. But...
There was that moment on the dock.
Yeah, isn't there the moment with Hawkeye?
Yeah, on the dock, which...
Yeah, on the dock.
Right,
After that was about
Yeah.
it.
I meant like with, more than like just between a moment between two characters that were,
Oh,
talking
okay.
about it, because they had this big thing. They all got together and sent off, for Tony, but there was not any mention, it didn't even necessarily need to be a funeral, but there was, not even any mention collectively as a group for her.
Did you guys get the feeling like Scarlet Witch knows she can bring them back and she's going to? Like they're not actually dead and Scarlet Witch is now collecting people? Like I got that vibe. Like Scarlet Witch is, people don't die anymore. I can bring them
It can
back.
affect reality, dude.
Yeah, like
You can
she
see the
can.
crazy coming out in her.
Yeah, and when she meets her daddy Magneto, when he finally shows up, shit's gonna go crazy. Oh, there I go again. See, I have a potty mouth.
Dude.
It's being around you, Chuck. But seriously, it is. It is going to be crazy when she meets up with the mutants because that changes everything.
Yes, except is Magneto her dad in this world if he didn't exist?
Maybe
here?
he did without mutant powers, and maybe now he just has mutant powers. I don't know. They messed everything up. Marvel's great at making it so you can't understand anything and you just buy the Spider-Man toys. That's what they do to you.
I tell you, one of my favorite parts of the movie. I mean, I don't fanboy or fangirl about too much in Marvel.
Wait a minute. Explain how you sometimes fangirl first, though. You said you don't fanboy or
fangirl just
fangirl.
matters. Fangirl just matters what kind of voice I use.
Oh, okay.
Oh my god!
Yeah, that's okay. For me, my favorite character in the entire Marvel universe is Nebula, and I absolutely love the arc that they gave her. And to me, I felt like the arc was a little unexpected, not from a writing perspective, just how important she was. If you don't have Nebula, you don't have any of the stuff that happens in the whole movie. I think that Nebula was such a key part and a key role in the whole thing. And when you first see her in Guardians of the Galaxy, you would never think that that character, out of all the characters, holds so much to making sure that things are actually going to happen. So I really love seeing her whole redemption story and her have such a major role in this movie that with as many characters as are there, you wouldn't expect her role to be just as important as Black Widow or just as important as Iron Man in the whole scheme of things, because if she doesn't do what she does, Iron Man doesn't get his chance to do what he does.
So now let me ask you, does she keep the old body for spare parts?
You never know, man. That's not a bad idea.
Right?
Maybe that's some fan fiction for the Indie Devil to write right there.
She starts dating a new guy. The new guy goes to the closet. There's just half the body with parts missing. Creeps him out. Oh, don't worry. I'm keeping that for parts. I mean, like, do you keep that? Is there a value in that? So now the world has seen the snap undone. How do you explain that to the population? Because clearly the Avengers did not explain what happened to anyone. No one understands what's happened. So now how do you re-explain?
Well, that's not true, because when Cap is sitting around in the circle, he mentions Thanos by name.
Yeah.
So they're made aware of it, but the thing is he's a freaking god to them.
Yeah.
How do we put that together? Like, some dude had ultimate powers, snapped his fingers, and now grandma's gone, and your little sister's gone, and so's the other half of your family. So, like, it's still hard to wrap your head around all of that cosmic crap as a guy who works at the freaking 7-Eleven 40 hours a week, you know? So, it can be explained, but it doesn't matter how much you explain it. It's still something that you're never gonna, in your lifetime, you're never gonna actually witness or fully be able to understand, because you don't live that life.
Fair enough. So let me ask you guys, one at a time, starting with Chuck. Finger gets snapped, half your family's gone, half the people you know is gone. How do you think Chuck reacts to that?
Oh, wow. You know what? I would gather up everyone who survived, and then we would find. It would be like a hippie ass commune sort of thing. We would work together, a bunch of us, and figure out how to move forward. I'm not one to want to wallow for too long, and I need to feel busy when I'm mourning. Like, it's easier for me to sort of mourn if I'm busy. So I would probably go straight out and start trying to do stuff. And that's not trying to paint me in some amazing situation. That's showing me that I can't handle this crap and I don't want to. So I'm going to handle something else.
Matt, how would you deal with it?
I would say I would think about every single apocalypse movie that I've ever seen of any kind, and think about the way that society breaks down in those things, and make sure that whatever area I'm in, we do the best we can to make sure that our area of society doesn't break down in the same way. I mean, whether it's an alien invasion or a snap or a zombie apocalypse or just people vanish, whatever it may be. people always try to take advantage of the situation. There's some people that want to make it good and figure out how to make it good for everybody. There's other people that want to try and take advantage of the situation in nefarious ways. And I would try to help lead people in a way that would make life still be good for everyone and not allow them to be taken advantage of by people thinking they can skirt the law.
Steph, how do you react?
I'm gonna be really honest here. I would be a little Thorish. I would probably be pretty depressed and despondent for a while. I think how I respond to those types of things is I would probably retreat within myself until I found a new reason to go on, whatever that would be, and I would hope that whether that is people or the hope that it'll get better, but it would take me a while to be there. I think that's a very human response, and that's the human answer that I can give is that I would probably be a shell of a human being for a little while until I found a reason to, go forth and find a purpose.
What do you think, Varian?
Matt had mentioned those nefarious people that would go out there and try to, get personal gain, and I'm one of those people. I would have gathered up my family members who have, figure out who disappeared, who has 401k, insurance premiums and plans, acquire their funds, and live my best life in their honor, of course, because they're no longer with us.
But that's being legal. You're talking about doing stuff legally. There's nothing wrong with legalities. I'm talking about people wanting to go out and physically rob and hurt and think that they're above the law. You're talking about doing things legal. I think that's great.
Yeah, I mean, it's legal until Lex Luthor does it, but I'd be very sad, and it depends on who would disappear. Like again, if my son disappeared, I'd be pretty, I'd probably be a lot like Thor, like Steph said, a lot of drinking, a lot of depression, and my son and my wife. But a few family members disappearing though wouldn't be a problem. Thinning the herd.
Well, yeah. See, if someone is left alive, then you have someone to focus on. But if I were like in Hawkeye's point of view, where everyone was gone, I can't tell you how I would. I honestly can't tell you how I would handle that. It would be a very, very bad situation for me. I don't see myself being able to dig my way out of that. So, yeah. But if one person, even just one of them, is left alive, I have someone to focus on. I have something to do.
See, I think that, and I guess I'm alone in this, I think that I would just completely snap in the way where I wouldn't trust society anymore. I wouldn't play by society's rules anymore. You couldn't protect me. The whole reason I behave is because you guys tell me that you're protecting me. You didn't protect anything. I think I would totally go Sons of Snaps and start a motorcycle gang and just live by our own rules. And anytime a cop came near me, I'd be like, where were you during the snap, huh? Where were you? Nowhere. That's where you were. Leave me alone.
I think society on a whole, no matter what happens, would change dramatically. And here's why. Not for the obvious reason, but I think that right then, every single person on the planet would believe that there was something more than just the physical realm. They would have to know that there was some kind of supernatural realm, and everybody would have to be in agreement at that point. And I think that would change a lot of the way that society operates because, no one could say there's nothing other than this physical realm if they just saw 4 billion people just disappear into dust. Because that doesn't happen in the physical realm. That happens far outside of this realm. I think that you'd see a lot of things change across the planet because of that.
I don't know,
atheism dies at that point.
No, I think you're wrong, Matt. I know Republicans are out there talking about there's no climate change. I think Republicans could try to convince everyone it was nothing. It was just voting for Obama is what caused everyone to die. I think that's what would happen. I think politicians would be out there trying to blame each other and not admit that there are these powers out there because I think humanity wouldn't want to admit that there are these godlike creatures that can control us because we're the biggest one in the yard. And to have that reality, because remember, that's why, look at how the humans reacted in every episode of the Avengers. We tried to build weapons to attack that would destroy ourselves. We tried to take control with S.H.I.E.L.D., Hydro rises. Humans are not good things. We are not the best entities in the universe. I'm actually surprised Thanos even showed up and wasn't like, great, the toilet bowl of the universe, I have to step in here because you go to every other place. They have so much more technology than us. You come here and it's like, God, look what you guys are doing. Reality television? Really?
Well,
Cell
and
phones only last for 2 hours.
Right?
as far as Thanos would know, who's representing Earth? Peter Quill. Yeah, I'm sure he didn't have a really good understand, feeling about Earth. Like, oh, these guys are idiots. We're fine.
No problem on Earth. Look, we got the Nova Corps now. All right, so here we go. Going forward, what do you guys most excited and hope Marvel does next for characters you like? For me, it's X-Men. I want to see X-Men brought in a way that doesn't destroy what the X-Men are, but does it in a powerful way. And it's a perfect time because you can make it so people hate people with powers now because of the snap and how it disrupted things. So you could definitely have mutants show up and be important. What do you guys want to see?
I want to see X-Men as well. My issue is that, and I'm going to be honest with you, I'm a diehard X fan, have been since I was a little kid, and I'm not enjoying these new movies anymore. I'm finding that there's I feel like they have not, they don't have the strength and the integrity that the MCU had. So, frankly, what I would love to see is I would love to see them wipe that world with Dark Phoenix and start all over again.
Yep.
With the MCU. That's what I would like.
Yeah, you can't bring that Fox stuff over. You cannot. That's all got when it snapped, when Tony snapped, they had to somehow that universe had to be aligned with Thanos. So they got destroyed and the new mutants can come, no pun intended. Because I mean they really did not. This Dark Phoenix movie, I'm gonna watch and hate it. And I know I am. I am not excited about it. The New Mutants is trash. It's garbage on fire. That's what it is. But what do you think, Matt? What are you excited for the future of the MCU?
I'm going to take it onto a much smaller scale. One of the problems that I've always had with the Marvel Universe is you can only get so big. And I feel like when Guardians of the Galaxy went to the level they did in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, that they took it to such a ridiculously large level that you can't get bigger than going back to the beginning of creation. And I'm like, so I want to see them start to downsize a little bit to stories that make a little more relatable sense. I really look forward to seeing how Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and the Asgardians of the Galaxy, and having different people in that ship, having Thor and Nebula in there all kind of aligned together. I want to see what their storyline becomes, because it has to be smaller than the last one. Can they make a storyline that's going to be something that is engaging for us, that is going to stand the test against 1 and 2?
Okay, cool. We're gonna go to Varian because Steph stepped away for a sec.
I'm excited about the future of the MCU. Pretty nervous though, because I think this is the first time in the MCU, at least, that we haven't had some type of roadmap about where they're going. What they're going. They're even secret about what movies they're going to put out next. So I would like to see the X-Men though. Wolverine's a favorite character, so I like to see him done, properly by Marvel. Well, not that. I mean, Hugh Jackman did a great job, but I like to see the X-Men in there, and maybe an X-Men versus Avengers movie down the line.
That would be cool. That would certainly be cool. Steph, what do you got?
Do you know? I'm excited for. I don't know if there is a particular, movie or set of characters that I'm excited to see at this point. I'm kind of the lone dissenter. I have not enjoyed any of the X-Men movies that have come out recently, so they would have to really, really redesign everything for me to be excited about an Avengers movie. Fantastic Four would be pretty cool. Let's take it in a different direction. Disney has the rights to that kind of stuff now, so I think I'm okay with anything that they want to do, as long as it is not just to kind of keep milking money out of the franchise, because then it's going to eventually jump the shark and nobody's going to enjoy it anymore. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm kind of I think I'm not far enough removed from having seen this movie to really even think about the future of MCU point.
Fair enough. All right. Well, at this point, we're going to end the radio portion of this program, and we're going to stay on to do an overtime where we're going to talk about controversial stuff with the movie for a couple minutes. But thanks for tuning in on the radio, and make sure that you guys check out all the creators that were on the show today. And just real quick, guys, tell them how to follow you on social media. You can follow me, by the way, at theindieadvocate.com. Go ahead, guys. Chuck, yes, you.
Oh, okay. I'm Chuck Pino. You can find me on Facebook as Chuck Pino. You can find me on Twitter as at Chucky Pin, and you can find me on YouTube at Chuck's Raw Reviews.
Go ahead, Matt.
All right, my name is Matt Knowles. You can find me through the many different social medias that Steph and I have for InSim. You've got InSymmetry Creations on Facebook, InSim on Facebook, InSim Creations on Twitter. Heirs of Isildur, you've got that's on all social media. It's just going to be Heirs of Isildur. Then you've got Tales from Nocturnia on Facebook, TF Nocturnia on Twitter. And if you guys are going to be at MegaCon, you'll be able to see us there. And we'd love to meet you guys.
And Steph.
Aside from all the ones that Matt mentioned, which is, our InSim and our titles, I'm Steph on Facebook, Comic Writer Steph on Instagram, and SCanon Comics on Twitter.
Varian?
Varian Grant. My Facebook is Varian Grant. You can find me on Twitter at KYD_V. And that's pretty. And then you have my company website, lastcallcomics.com.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week with another Indie Comics Report, which will be coming from Three Rivers. And now we're going to continue with the overtime. All right, guys, we're going to read some messages. We're going to talk about some stuff. One of the things I want to throw out for you guys, did you feel like the woman gathering of superheroes was forced? That seems to be a big debate online. Did you feel like all the female characters, for some reason, being in the same spot at the same time and doing a nod to the A-Force covers, did you think that was forced? Did you not like that? This is like the true controversy I have seen online, where people are getting nasty with each other. This I've seen. Chuck, start us off.
I don't want to be the first one to talk. I would like Stephanie to be the first one to talk about this. However, I do want to ask a question. Now that we're done the radio, we can swear?
Yes. Now that's
fucking
why.
Hey! All right. That's all I was waiting for. I'm better than you, bitch. Go ahead, Steph.
I don't think you want to go, I'm better than you, bitch, and go ahead, Steph. I don't think that was the perfect send-off. Maybe try again.
I've been misquoted. Now I'm famous.
Go ahead, Steph. Talk to us.
I will say, as a woman, it was completely forced. Honestly, if we really think about it, is there anyone that can argue against the fact that they did that for a specific reason? I don't think that it can be argued whether you like it and thought it was great or whether you thought it was forced and ridiculous. There was a reason they did that. They did that for a purpose, and it was just, to show female empowerment. I probably don't want to get too far into that, but yeah, it was absolutely forced. That's what I'll say. As a female, I will say that it was forced. It was cool. They looked cool, but it was forced.
But is that dangerous? Is this, because a lot of people say the reason comics are being hurt is forced agendas. Is that, because I can honestly say I don't think anyone ever sat around ever in the creation of all time of comic books until maybe the last 20 years and said, we have to make an all-male team. I think it happened because that was the time, and I think that now that you're forcing all-female teams, it is the reverse of diversity. It's the reverse of inclusion. I do think that is dangerous, and I'll put that out on the record. Doesn't mean I don't think there can't be an all-female team. There could be reasons it's all females. You could put females together that don't trust males. That could totally make sense. So let's not twist that into anything other than what it is. There's a moment where you have fans who are complaining about diversity and people who really aren't fans complaining about the lack of diversity. So we're dealing with this now. We can't always avoid it. As creators, do we see this as a dangerous, slippery road where, you have Brie Larson demanding that there be these characters introduced that are gay, bisexual, Even transgender, I heard that they want someone immediately put into the franchise. Does this feel like it could be dangerous for the popularity of the MCU and dangerous to comics itself if we're just forcing something, not including it, because that's important. Inclusion is obviously important. I want to say that right now before anyone gets mad. Anyone who says anything here, I know them personally, believe in inclusion and diversity. I don't think anyone on this group at all is against any of that. This isn't a Comicsgate moment. This is an honest conversation. I want to actually talk about it. Is forcing an agenda down these movies' throats a bad thing? Because I gotta kind of agree that moment, while cute for a cover moment, it was very forced. You could have done it with 5 characters. You didn't need 20.
Yeah.
So is this a bad
So,
sign?
so that's kind of how I felt at first. I was like, is this forced? So I talked to the females in my family. And their general idea was, yeah, okay, maybe. But for them, it was just a real fun woo ladies moment.
Okay.
And I think if you're able to just look at that, great. I think what bothers me about this whole forced agenda thing is that it's only forced if you buy into it. So the thing is that at the end of the day, I'm going to keep making the books that I'm going to make. And if they make money, then the audience is telling me what to do.
Okay.
So if someone creates this, this diverse cast or like an all-female cast or whatever, and people buy it, then they wanted it. So it's not forced. It's only forced if you keep making a book that people don't want to read. And people can't afford to do that. Even Marvel can't afford to keep putting out a book that no one's going to read. That's why books get canceled all the time.
But that's the point. More books are canceled than ever before. Marvel's
I
making
don't know
less.
about that.
Yes, absolutely true. That is a fact. There are less long-running titles than there ever been. There are more cancellations than have ever been. There's more changes in creative staffs now. There's a reboot every year because they can't get it right. Something is wrong creatively over at Marvel when you have to reboot your product once a year. That means that you're doing something wrong. I mean, we can all agree on that, right? If you need to reboot every year, something's not happening for you. And
I think that's what they want to do. I don't agree that that's a good choice, but
they do it 'cause it's the only time they make money. And that's just the truth. It's the only time they make money is when they reboot or when they turn Captain America Hydra. When they're doing this shock value stuff. Their regular titles, even Captain America for some reason, is now failing. And no one can explain why, considering her popularity with the movies. Her comic book is not selling. They're actually talking about
Marvel?
Yeah, they're talking about canceling her right now. This has come out recently that the sales for comic books from Marvel are beginning to really suffer. Kickstarter is officially going to take out Marvel this year. We're all going to end Marvel being the number 1 or 2, depending with DC, and we're going to go above them, and we might even take out DC with Kickstarter. If you consider Kickstarter as a comic book publisher, it will sell more than Marvel and DC this year. That is just the truth. That is the trend right now. We came close last year. Real close. We outdid Image. Kickstarter's number 3.
I don't know if you saw the Comic-Con report for 2018 that just came out, but they said they included crowdfunding and things like that in it. And they said that last year was the number 1 ranked most dollars ever put towards comics in history. There's all the talk about the industry failing and all that. But when you include Kickstarter, it's the most successful year in the history of comics because of crowdfunding.
They don't want to talk about it, but the money's going to us. Indie creators who are being... Because we don't force things. I write characters, and Chuck can back me up on this, that are bisexual. We talk about characters' sexuality. We don't have neat and clean. Like, I had someone ask me, how come my monster book is about all white people? And I'm like, what are you talking about? The Mummy can't be white. The Mummy character it can't be white. Even Dracula, he's from a part of a region where you wouldn't typically call these people white people. I was like, you're assuming a race. And I think that's a big problem, is that people begin to assume if you don't put it in their face. If you don't point out to them, hey, look, this character's not white. But if you do that, aren't you forcing something? Isn't that line where now look at me, I have diverse characters. I don't want to put that. I didn't want to put LGBT on my book about fetish despite my character being bisexual. I think that is forcing something on a character. And that is what concerns me, is because let's be honest, how many books do we see now that say they're LGBTQ, but the only thing they have is a bisexual character? Is that really an LGBTQ book? Is that all it takes now to be an LGBTQ book, is to have a two girls kiss? One every 10 panels? Like, where are the lines? Where are people? Because you do something that makes money, more people are going to do it. That's my problem, is that I see it in indie where there's a rise in people talking about LGBTQ books, which are important, versus making books that really aren't LGBTQ, but you're now calling it that just to make money.
You know, I have a friend of mine. He's another comic book publisher, and on his table he has a little sign that says, "This table is, LGBTQ friendly." And I thought, how sad that is that he has that sign up, because the whole convention should be considered friendly. I don't think there's ever been a situation where I've said, hey, no, I don't want any lesbians at the show, any gays, or anybody like that read my comic. To that moment in the movie, I personally felt it was a little forced. There's no way strategically all those women were in the same place at the same time, unless Thanos was not attacking any women at that point. Everyone was getting their asses whooped. So for them to all be there, that seemed a little forced. I believe my wife rolled her eyes at one point, but I to what you said about it being pandering, me being black, sometimes I get tired of because Falcon is a strong enough character to not be Captain America. You don't have to put that title on him to make Falcon an important character in comics. Just write good Falcon stories.
Mm-hmm.
Create black characters, but don't make them the new Iron Man or the new Captain America or the new. Miles is a bit different, but even still, everyone's derivative of another character. So just make good black characters, make good gay characters, and the fans will come.
I really agree with that, Varian. I think the only reason that I'm cool with Falcon being Captain America is because it's what Sam said. I'm unhappy that I'm going to live in a world that doesn't have Captain America. We need a Captain America. And so I think that's the point. Yeah, I love Falcon as the Falcon. I think he's great all on his own. And I don't think that we need a black Captain America or anything in particular. But I think we need a Captain America. I think that world needs a Captain America. And so I like that he was the best man for that job. And so many people were like, why isn't it Bucky? And I'm like, Bucky's a terrible fucking dude. He's done terrible things. And he has not fully redeemed himself. Sam has nothing to redeem. He is a good dude who has always tried to do good. And he is the best of us in so many ways. He deserves to be Captain America.
Now, hold on, wait a minute. Sam is still on parole. He's a convicted felon. Let's not forget that about Sam. Matt.
They're going to also dig up the Falcon. Sam Wilson has he robbed a Taco Bell.
There was a domestic report one time. No, but Matt, what do you think about all this, man? Chime in, talk to us.
Well, so there's a lot of different topics that got touched on here. So, in short, yeah, I definitely felt like it was forced fan service when it came to all the women come together in the movie in that one spot. I've got, differing thoughts every time I think about it. I feel a little bit differently about it. The way I see it, it was not a scene that caused any harm in the movie. It wasn't like they went anywhere past that scene. And if cause some people to cheer in the movies because they came together, hey, why not? It wasn't like it was the biggest, most harmful scene in the world. It was just there and it was okay. What I do want to say, I want to touch on people using titles to market. And I'm going to go a little roundabout to get back here, Rob, because I can't do a conversation without doing this at least once. To me, as long as something is quality, I could give a crap where it comes from, what it's about, what colors the characters are, what their sexual orientation is. If it's a quality story, I'm down with it. I grew up, let me tell you a little story. I grew up in the Christian music world. I know all about, the satanic panic in the late 80s and early 90s. And I remember back in the day, there were articles about how this specific Christian band should tour with this specific satanic band because they put their lyrics and their stance above creating quality music. The music was substandard, and all they were doing was pandering to a specific demographic by trying to say specific things in their songs. But if you go and listen to the music absolutely sucked. It was absolute trash. And nobody listens to that music anymore except for a very, very small fraction of the music listening community because the music just wasn't good. They were just pandering to that community.
Hey, Matt, can you tell us your honest opinion about the music? I don't quite think I got. Did you like it?
Now, I will tell you. Now, let's take that into this world. As long as it's a quality title, I could care less what any of those orientations are. I could care less if it's all white guys, all black guys, all aliens with 3 heads. Who cares? As long as it fits what the story is, then I'm totally fine with it. And that's about all I have to say on the topic. Just the more people rate quality stuff, the less people are going to be concerned about what the makeup of the character base is that's in there. That's how I feel.
Well, we're all writers. Now, first off, I care about 3-headed aliens. I want more of them, just for the record. But
Me too.
as writers, and I've written things for people where it wasn't my creation and you have someone over your head adding things that they want. Anytime someone tells me to add something, my instant reaction is to become the Hulk, grab them, and smash them like Loki. Like, you don't understand, puny god. I know what I'm doing. I'm a writer. I couldn't even imagine someone coming up to me and going, hey, you're going to write Captain America, and he's going to wear a pink outfit and be gay. I don't know how I could do that. I think I would quit. I don't think I could do it. I've seen and I've heard creators both privately and publicly talk about the things that they are forced to do when they're under contract. I think I'd quit, honestly. I don't think I could do it. Like, that's what bothers me is the fact that if a creator wants to go out there, like you said, make a quality story. The guy who made Captain America Hydra, he believed in that story. Every interview he did, he said, this is going to be a great story. It's going to pay off. I'm still mad at him. I didn't like the Magneto thing with the Hydra thing. I did not like any of that. But he committed to it. But a lot of creators don't. What do you guys think? Are these creators being held at creative gunpoint to do these things because Marvel's marketing campaigns think it's going to work? Because let's be honest, Marvel Comics are grasping at straws now.
Well, I think that what we need to remember is that comics are an entertainment medium. And so companies like Marvel and DC and big companies like that, they feel like they have to try to find the zeitgeist. They have to find, where their fans are at and what they want. And the nice thing for the rest of us is we don't have to do that so much. We just get to kind of be true to our stories. So a writer who writes for Marvel, you're not necessarily, you're sending out a pitch, but what your pitch turns into is not necessarily, there's so many editors and whatnot over top of that stuff that at the end of the day, that's going to change from what you want to do to what Marvel turns it into. So he can say, I think it's Spencer, whoever, can say that that's the story that he wanted to tell all along, but Marvel wanted to tell that story too because they let it happen.
Okay.
And we have way too many people there for that to just be on him.
But you didn't answer. You didn't answer the question. Do you think creators are being forced now to make content that they don't believe in? That's the question.
Absolutely.
Well,
yeah. If you work for,
if you gotta, here's the way you gotta look at it. And this is comics. This is anything. As soon as something becomes a corporation, as soon as it is publicly traded, it is not about let's put out the good story. It's about let's put out something that we believe is going to put an extra quarter in the stockholders' pockets. Mm-hmm. Every business is that way as soon as it becomes publicly traded. And I've got a big problem with that because there's a big money grab to go and have them be on the stock exchange. But they start to forget about what the actual quality of the product is. They start to forget about the people that are making the product, and they turn them into disposable freaking drones. And so absolutely people are being forced to write stuff that they don't believe in because that's what their job says they have to do. It's not about fulfilling that person. It's about fulfilling the role and putting money in the stockholders' pockets. So absolutely, it's there and it completely sucks.
Chuck, did you have something to follow up? I know the dog started about interrupting in the middle of what you were saying.
Those little fuckers. I love them too, though. The thing, yeah, of course it's forced. It's a publisher, and they want certain things, and they have to speak to the audience. They have to speak to their board of directors. They have to speak to all that. We as indies, we don't have to do that. You put it out, and people either like it or they don't. If they don't, crap. I gotta try something new. I gotta do something different. That's fine. But even like we fall in love with these characters. You fall in love with Steve Rogers, Captain America. Steve Rogers, Captain America has been there for 60 some odd years. And actually more than that, because he's been around since the 30s or 40s.
Yeah.
He's been around forever. And why is he still there? Because he makes bank.
Yep.
But if any of us were writing him, Steve would have been dead a long time ago, and we would have moved on to somebody else. We would have moved on to something else, just like with Savage Dragon. Killed him off, moved on to something else. So, yeah, they're forced to because people love those characters. People love Wolverine. So we have 200 Wolverine books. I love Wolverine. I'm not going to read 200 fucking Wolverine books. I don't have that money. I don't have that time. And I don't want to sift through the trash because there's a lot of it. So, at the end of the day, it's why I'm all completely reading indie right now, because that stuff's not forced. It's not saying, hey, we have to make books for this stuff. I want to read books that are fun. Marvel probably has some books that are fun, and actually I read Miss Marvel recently. I loved it. I thought it was pure fun. But, as long as you keep doing that. If it stops being fun, I'll leave it and I'll find something else.
Fair enough. Steph, as a female who has lacked representation from females in comics for many years and finally is being brought up, do you see this as a good thing or is it the wrong way it's being done?
I think it depends. I think it is a very fine line that needs to be dealt with appropriately as far as whether it is this character is female or this character is a person of color or this character is LGBTQ. When you make a big deal about it for no reason, then you kind of are doing the opposite. I think you touched on that a little bit, Rob. And you actually do harm. If the character is facing adversity and discrimination because of who they are, then absolutely put that in the tagline for the story that you're writing about them. If they just happen to be female superhero, they just happen to be a gay superhero, and it has nothing to do, it has no effect on them whatsoever, then that doesn't need to be the thing that you have to do to sell the book or sell the movie.
Yeah.
It just should be an organic thing that people discover when they watch the thing or read the thing. As far as women go, I think that, if it's done for the right reasons and not forced, as we said earlier, then it's going to make sense and it's going to be cool. But I think it's a fine line. I feel like I'm a little bit different as far as females go and what I'm looking for. Like Matt said, I'm just looking for a cool story. I'm not necessarily girl power, and we're all girls and we're all doing this together is not going to sell me on something. There needs to be a little bit more to it than that.
All right, Variant. As someone I know who hates the sudden race swap, I know that you've talked about that. Can you talk to us about how it feels? And I know that you said, and stop me if I'm wrong about this, you said that you want new powerful characters, not old ones repackaged. Can you talk to us about that from your point of view?
Well, if you're telling, if someone says, oh, well, there needs to be more, black representation in comics. Okay, well, that's fine. I think that you always had people willing to do that. Even white writers, white artists are willing to do that and create those characters. It's unfair to say that they aren't. But they also do what tends to sell. And so if you create new characters that are black, ones that have unique powers, unique stories, unique origins. Instead of repackaging them and as okay, well, this is Batman, but he's black now. This is I especially when it's not a part of the character. I understand Green Lantern becoming black, though. Someone black getting the Green Lantern ring. But Marvel has a bad tendency to do this. I mean, and it's because Marvel's focused on becoming a lifestyle brand. I don't think they'll be doing comics in the next 5 years, honestly. Those comics will be placeholders for IPs.
Yeah.
So they keep making movies off of them. I don't think they're interested in making comics anymore, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I would go that far. I think that there's a Stan Lee in everything that they do. And I think they just lost their way. I think that it's one of those things, a big company buys you out and suddenly you're forced to do things. DC went through it. I think Marvel's just feeling Disney's fingers inside of them. And I think that I think a lot of people in Marvel are like, no, let them suffer. Let them make the mistakes so we can take it back. And I do think you're going to see comic book writing get stronger. And I know one of the people who actually reads a lot of comic books that are current, because I don't, is Travis, who's joining us. Travis, are comic books forced agendas? Are we teaching our kids?
So yeah, that's why I jumped on. I am in the middle of I'm about to head into a meeting, but I had to jump on because of a couple of things that were said. So one thing, Marvel sales were not down. You're looking at just the only reported sales that Marvel produces, just for the record, is their diamond sales. That doesn't count any of their international sales or any of their sales for things like MegaCon. Have you seen how many Marvel exclusive covers are at MegaCon? And
No.
That's every convention in the area. You can't get those through diamonds.
Also digital.
What's that?
Also their digital sales.
Also, their digital. Well, they do report their digital sales. Just they report it at a different spot. I don't know if it's on those big things. So, Marvel isn't struggling on their sales department anything. As someone who reads 90% of Marvel's books, unless it's a crazy title like I hate Deadpool, so I don't read any Deadpool. And I'm not a big fan of Captain Marvel, but I read everything else. The reason why they do the revamps is, unfortunately, it's the only way. It's not because of bad storytelling. It's unfortunately it's the only way to, as Rob said, to get a boost in sales.
Yeah.
So they keep doing it over and over again,
Right.
trying to keep the legacy numbers. And they haven't learned that, you look at last month is the first time that Marvel has lost the diamond records. You know who they lost to? They lost to DC, and they lost to Batman Detective 1000. So they're learning that this was a mistake, but those are the major things that are going on. Marvel did make a mistake when they switched all the characters, but if you look at Marvel right now, they've switched them all back because they did realize they did try something, and what they realized is that fans are okay with a change. They're just not okay with a change across the board, and that's what Marvel did. Marvel changed everything, and that wasn't okay.
So do you think, as someone who reads all these comic books, that there is a hand, an agenda, like these people are trying to make us think? Is there this, I forget what they call it, an SJW agenda? Is that what they're calling it? Do you feel as a reader that there's this I don't even know what it's supposed to mean. I just know the SJW warriors I've dealt with don't like fetish. That's my only experience with SJWs. They don't like fetish. This
is my last thing. There's not an agenda. However, the biggest growth in comics have been through the gay and lesbian and through female readers, or the people who are coming over from the movies. It's not the men. We've been reading comics for years. You know what I'm saying? So the biggest growth has been women. So they try to cater to that a little bit. But I don't think there's an agenda, because if you look at stuff like Venom, they just put good quality writers in it and fix that problem,
Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right. I know you're busy.
Yeah, I am busy. The other thing that I would state, that the biggest negative that Marvel has is they also want to get that free money for events, where DC went away from that. So Donny Cates is the biggest writer in Marvel right now with Venom. He then took that franchise and within less than a year made it the most popular franchise. Everybody's talking about it, and it now has a major crossover. That's what Marvel does. And then they kill these writers because when you put that pressure on them, they can't fulfill. Going back to the Hail Hydra, that storyline itself wasn't that bad. The problem is when you make it so big and take it out of Captain America, it doesn't hold its weight to a big event like an Infinity Gauntlet or an Infinity War.
Fair enough.
All right, love you guys.
Later, dude.
Oops.
All right, so as someone who read the comics, he feels like there isn't a lot of overreach. I don't necessarily know that there is a lot of overreach. I think what he said is that they're trying to force things to try to make things make money, and that makes sense because they're businesses. But as far as comic titles themselves, do you actually look for diversity in your comics? Do you notice lack of diversity in your comics? Chuck, we'll start with you. When you're reading a comic, do you go, "Wow, this doesn't seem very diverse"? Has that ever dawned on you?
Well, I mean, what I want is I want a character. I want a comic that feels real.
Okay.
And so the thing is like my Welcome to the Void, and not to push my own stuff, but you're gonna find a lot of wasps in Welcome to the Void
What's a
because the
wasp?
idea is
What's a wasp?
that a lot of white Anglo-Saxon Protestants basically, and it's because so because the idea is that it's about what I like to call casual racism. We're not around, and I grew up with this. You're not around people of different colors or different genders and sexualities and stuff. So you're not sure how to handle it. So it's not about hate. It's about a complete ignorance.
Okay.
And so that's what the book is about. So there are a lot of white people. I actually had someone say to me, yeah, I'm not backing your book anymore because it doesn't have that. And I said, well, it doesn't have that because it's fighting that. We're actually trying to talk about it. My main character is Asian American. His roommate is black. And they're ostracized because of the area they live in. They're treated differently because people don't understand how to deal with them. And so that's the story that I'm telling. So I'm actually telling the story you want, just not the way you want me to.
Okay. What do you think, Matt? Does diversity affect your reading? Do you notice it?
Like Chuck just said, I just look for quality titles, and if it makes sense, if it's real, then I'm good with it. I look for things like, hey, I want to see a good steampunk title because I'm in the steampunk world. If the concept of the story sounds like it's going to be something cool, then I'm going to go take a look at it. But once we get into the story, I get more involved in what the characters are doing than things like that, because to me that's what's more important. Because I just said that to me is just more important. I could care less male, female, white, black. It doesn't make a difference to me as long as the characters have got integrity and the characters make sense for what the story is.
All right, Steph, do you notice when females aren't being represented in comic books? Does that draw you into wait a minute, what just happened?
I don't know. I think if the story is good and I'm enjoying it, I'm going to notice those things less.
Okay.
If I'm not enjoying it, then I may be able to pick up on those types of things a little bit more because I'm dissecting it a little bit more. But I just look for good story. I don't not read something because it's not diverse enough, and I don't read something just because it's diverse, because either one could still be a bad story. I think if females are what I notice more is when females are represented realistically and in ways that make sense and not gratuitous ways, and I don't even mean like gratuitous in the way that we probably think. I mean gratuitous like the whole girl power thing and that type of thing. I just want a cool story, and if there are I don't know if I would necessarily notice it and go, oh, there's no females in this. What the heck? There could be a good reason. There could not. It's just the story that's being told. I tend to write more male main characters, and I think as time goes on, that is probably a question that I will get a lot as a female, but that's because the characters that I want to write happen to be male. It has nothing to do with, female empowerment or anything like that. So.
Fair enough. Varian, what do you think as a creator? Do you get taken out of the fantasy realm if you're not noticing a diversity or there's something missing for you?
Absolutely not. Again, the race of the character makes no difference to me. I like to see. I mean, again, I want to say that and also say this: if I notice someone pandering, that'll take me out the story quicker than not having a black character in there. So if I see Again, if that same scene in Endgame would have happened with all just the black characters, like they magically all ended up on the field at the same time, that would have took me out of the movie. But no, I mean, again, I've said it before. I agree with everybody on the panel. I'm interested in well-written characters.
Yeah. I mean, characters take us through the journey. If a character's good, you don't really notice what color they are. So you'd have to stop and actually wonder it. And one of the things I always find funny is that, we have this world where everyone's about diversity, and then they're like, oh, it's a white person. There's more than one type of white person. There's diversity in the type of white people there are, too, that I think some people forget. Like, if you turn, this is my argument when it comes to diversity. Why can't you make Steve Rogers black? Because he grew up in Brooklyn during World War II. A black kid in World War II Brooklyn would have had a much different experience than Steve Rogers had as a white kid. And I think people forget that. And I think that we can't force it, but we need to involve it. Because on the same coin, someone said to me once, well, there was a whole debate. Why can't we make the new Batman black? And I was like, why would you make him black? And they were like, yeah, we'll do, who's the guy who played Killmonger? What's his name?
Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah.
Jordan,
They said he would make a great Batman. I'm like, absolutely not. I was like, first off, he would be horrible for Batman. I don't see the range in who he is. Second, I think the problem is that you'd have to reinvent Batman. Now, by actually having a conversation with this guy for about 10 minutes, I actually wrote in my mind a story where you made Batman a lot more believable if he were born a different color, and this color happened to be black. And I said, well, one of the things that would be interesting, I'm sure, when his parents got killed is that they would be like, oh, is this gang related? Like, they wouldn't have made Bruce instantly a victim. They would victimize and they would have made the family seem maybe dirty for doing something. And the guy was like, wow, that's a really good idea. So there's possibility when you're a good writer to do something well and to change fundamental things. And I think it's like you said, Varian, or like everyone else has said, it's about how you tell the story. If you're not telling the story where you're pouring it down someone's throat and just treating race like it can be changed, like a light switch, and not admitting that there is something that goes along with us when it comes to race, then you're going to have a problem. Because every one of us is going to see the world differently. Wouldn't you all agree with that? Varian, I know that you probably agree with that. Who we are determines how we see the world.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I have my son is biracial, and he's 8 years old. He's starting to come to terms with what that means. For the longest, he thought that being mixed is, well, his skin was brown like mine on one side, but his palm was white. That was the difference. He thought that was the black and white mix there. But yeah, I mean, your Batman comment there. There's actually a video game from Telltale that had Batman's dad. They painted him as more of a bad guy. That he was an asshole and he needed to go, and that's why he was killed. He and his wife were killed. If you painted Batman as a black character, like you just said, there would definitely be some differences in how he would operate. And I think indie guys do that. We take characters like that. We say, okay, I want to take the Batman idea and I want to put a different spin on it. What if Batman was black? I think that I can't remember what character it was, but they had a character that was a black Batman. He only saved black people. He didn't save anybody that was white. I forget which character that was, though. It was early 2000s. I can't think of the name. It'll come to me later. But yeah, I mean, I don't care about the race of Batman. I do think Michael B. Jordan. I don't think he'd be a good choice for Batman or Superman either.
No. So he just doesn't have the range for it. The guy who plays, and I always get his name wrong, the guy who plays Luthor in BBC, now he'd make a good Batman.
Idris
Yes. Oh my God, would he make a good Batman? I would take him in any role any day. James Bond, Superman, Batman. I'm okay with him playing anything. Now, what about gender swapping? We haven't talked about that. What happens when a character changes gender? Does that bother you guys? And then we're going to go through a lightning round of everyone's comments where we just make quick, quirky things. But I just want to end this with this because we didn't talk about that. If a character changes gender, does it bother you?
Again, as long as it makes sense, I don't care.
Not making sense. They just change it. And this is a clear, we just changed the gender for, like we're talking about. This is forced. We're talking about a forced gender change. They just did it to make sales. Does that bother you?
Well, I mean, obviously, yeah, force anything is bullshit, but you have to prove that it's forced. A lot of people said that I went back and I read when Thor was a female, and actually, it was really good. I really liked Jane as Thor. I thought she was really well done. I don't think it was forced in that they did it across the line, but the actual storyline, Jason Aaron is awesome. He did a really good job of it.
And you
So,
saw
I mean,
that she's
you
becoming
have
a
to
new
prove that
character
it's
now,
forced.
right? Chuck, you saw they're
Right?
making her a new character, Jane Foster. She's
I
the
don't
new,
know what you mean. Sorry.
She's the new Valkyrie. Is that it, Varian? She's the new Valkyrie or something. Jane
I believe
Foster's
so.
coming
Yeah,
back.
yeah, she is now. Yeah.
She's Valkyrie now.
Yeah. So that she's actually coming back. So that's a good, solid point. But we're talking
Yeah.
about like where an Iron Man was suddenly made into a female out of
I did-
nowhere.
yeah, I didn't like it, but when she became Ironheart, when she has her own thing,
Yeah.
cool. I'm good with that. It's anything forced sucks. You know, like I don't want that stuff forced. But if you can make it real, and so when Riri became her own character and stuff, I like that, and I thought that was great. It's the same as Kamala Khan becoming Miss Marvel instead of Captain Marvel or anything that I really like how they've played that up. It's not forced because they didn't make her a Captain Marvel right away. They didn't push her up to the big leagues. She's having to work her way up there, and I'm enjoying that.
Very cool. Matt, does it bother you when a character suddenly gender swaps?
So, Matt, like you said, matters if it makes sense. I'm going to take it to a TV show. You look at the Goldbergs. The Goldbergs, you've got your parents, and you've got two brothers and a sister. And it's based on a real-life family, which is Adam Goldberg's family. The real family has got three brothers. There's a brother named Eric, but for the show, they changed it to Erica. And they actually have talked about it a little bit. They did that so they had a little bit more, I hate to use the word diversity, but so they had a little more diversity in what they could do storyline-wise. Having a sister and some brothers in there that gave us so they could have more depth to the different types of stories they could do. I had no problem with that. I thought it was actually kind of cool. So if it's done in a way that actually makes sense and it can be done in a way that's quality, hey, it's all good. If it's something that is, again, just done for the sake of doing it, I think that gets back into the whole corporate realm, and I can't stand the corporate world, and it starts to really bother me at that point.
Steph, do you care what gender a person is if it's forced, or does it matter more the story like everyone's saying?
It matters more the story. I agree with Chuck. Anything forced is not going to be great. Anything forced is going to make you have that gross feeling, like it just feels wrong.
Yeah,
but again, you do have to prove that it is forced. I think there are good ways to do it. I actually like Riri's storyline right now in the comics, so I think there are exceptions to the rule, but for the most part, I think that it is a lot of times unneeded.
All right, very cool. And Varian, do you care? Gender?
Not really. I mean, again, I gotta echo what everyone else said. As long as it's not agenda driven, if it's a credit to the story, then I'm fine with that. But the minute it becomes, hey, we're mandating every character across the board, that's male and female or vice versa, there's a problem. However, there is a good storyline in that. Imagine that. Somebody used the gauntlet, turns all the male characters into females, all the female characters into males. They did that with
Futurama.
Yeah, that'd be kind of funny. I'd read that.
They did do that with Futurama. It's hilarious.
All right, so I am officially the only one on the panel that has no problem with every character being turned into a female just because of the outfits they wear. Fine, I'll be that guy. I would read everything as female characters. I have no problem making them female.
So what he's saying is you want to see Chuck Pino turned into a female so you can see him wear the costume? I hear you.
If I get to pick the costume, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's do. Forget about my trip to Florida anymore.
He's coming with me to a fetish club.
I am. Never been. Don't know anything about it. But I've had to edit all the fetish books, so time to learn.
And I've told people that he's coming too, so this is gonna be fun. All right.
That's what she said.
Okay, here we go. Here's a lightning round of comments. Brian said, actually, in Age of Ultron, Cap did not know Bucky killed Tony's parents. I'd have to go back and look at it. I know at some point Cap finds out about it, but either way, at that point, Cap was conflicted. So, and I'm wrong. Brian says I'm wrong. We see folks turn to dust, and we can't explain that. So yes, people will give up and just not go on with their normal life. All right, Brian disagrees with me. Brian also says all of Peter's friends and classmates were snapped away. How is that possible? How could what is his high school in a spot that Thanos really didn't like? I'm going to snap everyone away, half the people, except for that high school. Fuck them, all of them are going.
That high school was too diverse.
Peter, that was like teenager. Snap, snap, snap.
There's a specific group, age group that's just gone.
They didn't age. Scott said it felt like 5 hours. I don't know if that lines up because it's 5 years in the future. In the movie, they didn't go back 5 years, right? It's still 5 years in the future as far as everyone knows, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I don't know if that one holds up. Alan Ellsworth says, hey guys, has anyone else seen the Spider-Man trailer, The Other Dimensions? I'm sure it's how they're going to bring in Fantastic Four and the X-Men. Has everyone seen that trailer, the new Spider-Man trailer?
No.
Okay, well...
Nope, not yet.
Really good.
All right, so the basic idea is that Mephisto is trying to claim that there's now a rip
Mysterio.
Well, Mysterio, that's right, sorry. If there's a rip in the multiverse where people can come in and out, but again, this guy is a liar. And not to be a spoiler, but he's wearing a costume at one point when you watch the trailer. Notice he puts on the glasses and he goes, oh, I think it's all fake. I think he's playing with everyone. So I don't know if that's actually... I don't think anything we learned in the Spider-Man trailer is real. And, Mysterio is lying. Don't believe him at all is what Brian says. And then Alan answers, I don't believe Mysterio, but I believe Furry. And then Brian goes on to say that Furry's not Furry in Far From Home. And he says, oh, you think it's a conjurer of Mysterio? He says, no, Furry's actually Chameleon. Do you guys...
Can we call him Fury and not Furry? Because you guys are painting a completely different... He's going to put on a fucking chipmunk suit.
Hey, leave the
shit.
dyslexic guy reading out loud alone, motherfucker.
Chuck, you know what Rob's trying to do. He's comes from those fetish books.
Not even on my side.
You're editing him right now.
I'm editing him right now.
He's editing me live on television. Thanks, buddy. Thanks. So Fury is actually Chameleon. Do you guys think we're heading towards Secret Invasion? Do you think that's what we're gearing up towards? What do you think, Varian?
That would be cool. I mean, I would be really happy if they did that. But the MCU has tricked me before with Mandarin. So I'm waiting for that swerve to come in where Mysterio is just some failed actor. Oh, I mean, he is, and he's using this as an opportunity to, try to get one over and become famous.
Yeah. Let's be honest, though, and this is something that has come up in the news recently, is that the Russo brothers have been accused, and I think in a lot of sense they've even been honest about it, that they filmed stuff specifically for the trailers that gets put on the cutting room floor, and that a lot of stuff that's on the cutting room floor nowadays is making it to trailers because it's a little more fantastic and it'll get people excited. So, I don't buy into trailers so much anymore. It's just like, does this look like it's going to be fun? Am I excited? Cool. Am I going to pick it apart like a motherfucker? No, it's not worth it. Pick apart the movie, but at the end of the day, the trailer, it's a 1.5 minute commercial. Like, let's keep that in mind. This is a commercial. This is just made to get you excited. So is this canon? No, probably most of it isn't even going to make it to the movie.
All right, so you're okay with just leaving trailers alone, but bother a guy reading notes out loud. Gotcha. I understand. X-Men will be great in hands of Kevin Feige. Is that how he's Fergie? Is that how he's
Feige.
So what do you guys think? Will X-Men, Fantastic Four, will they come over in a good way, or do you think they're gonna suffer the same consequence?
If he's in charge, they'll be good.
Hold on, Chuck. Let's give it to Matt. Matt, what do you think?
I definitely do not have the answer to give on this one, so that's why I'm staying silent, because I want to make sure that Chuck, the expert, is the one that gives us the answer on this one. I have no clue.
You stink. Steph, do you think that the X-Men can be brought over in a good way? Do you think they can finally get the movie they've deserved?
I kind of hope so. I mean, as much as I've written the movies off, I hope so, because I think the cool thing about X-Men is that, how is it that superheroes who happen upon their powers are revered, while those who are born with them are castaways, mutants, and discriminated against. I love that aspect of X-Men. I would love to see a kick-ass movie, so I hope so.
All right, Varian, do you think the X-Men and Fantastic Four can find a home in the MCU?
They can, they will, but it's going to be tricky. And I think as fans, we're not going to be 100% happy with how they do it. We can't be.
Yeah, that's the goal of a fan, to be angry.
Yeah.
Brian says no, it wasn't forced. I don't know what he's talking about, so I'm going to assume he means that moment of all the women, and he doesn't think it was forced. He's one of a minority of people that don't think it's forced, because I know a lot of people felt it was forced. But okay, Brian, that's your right. You're a fan. We all paid to see the movie, so we all get to interpret it the way we want it, and that's important to remember. Is that just because you see something the way it is doesn't mean it's true. And if a writer tells you they did something for a reason, believe the writer. Don't believe your eyes, because the writer made the choice. Remember, the people making the movie can tell you more than your feelings can tell you. So if he says it's not forced and that's how he felt, then good, Brian. I know a lot of people who actually think the reverse, but that's all right. Brian also said it's not to publishers to blame; it's the buyers. See. All right, do you guys think the buyers aren't buying comics now? Do you think that's what's going on? Like, people don't want to buy comics because they're afraid of the SGW thing? Steph?
I'm sorry to interject, but that was one of my questions earlier. You guys are talking about the numbers. Yeah. Are those the numbers of the publisher is selling to the distributor, to Diamond? Or is that, because, I mean, as far as I know, there's no way to track what book's moving out of the source.
Well, it's the only clear way, like Travis had brought up, is Diamond, and Travis is arguing that the multiverse of multi-covers and alt covers are bringing Marvel in millions, but they don't actually have a line. When Marvel Comics was Marvel Comics, they used to actually give out more information. Now that they're owned by Disney, they kind of hide things in corners so that they can make it look profitable, because you want it to be profitable. So, honestly, it's a mess to try to really figure out what any of their sales are unless they want to tell you what their sales are. We can only go off of Diamond at this point. Diamond versus Kickstarter. Those are the two things we have, and it is a mess. Obviously, Marvel is having trouble because they are canceling books left and right. That is true. They are actually canceling books all the time. But DC's had a wave of cancels too. So, I don't know. I don't blame the buyers. I'm always going to blame the publisher. It's your job to make the book interesting, and find what your fans want. You don't write for your fans, but you write something that your fans will enjoy. And I think that's what Marvel forgot. What do you think, Varian? Am I right?
I agree. And I think that those numbers that they're putting up are usually numbers that are from, them to Diamond. My local comic book store, he shrunk his section. He says he can't sell books. People aren't coming in, buying them. He has people canceling their, pull list, and it just sucks because he can't keep, he may have to. He's also, got a lot of toys too. So,
well, let me ask everyone: who here is actually reading Marvel or DC books right now? Chuck, Matt,
nope.
Steph.
I am mostly reading indie right now. I'm keeping up kind of with what's going on in the Marvel Universe, but I'm not actively reading anything by them right now.
Varian?
I've been reading the old stuff. I've been getting that from, like, Ollie's and Second and Charles.
Well, see, like, none of us on the panels have been. I was into the Batman story for a while. And honestly, I would still be reading DC Batman. Honestly, would completely be doing it. The only problem is, and then Chuck knows this, I get a lot of people asking me to read their books. So I have to read other people's books. So the amount of free time I have is dedicated to helping other people and reading their books or working on my own comics. So I would read DC though. If I had a little extra money and a little extra time, I would definitely start reading DC again in a heartbeat. But Marvel, I honestly am not interested in it. I don't like what they did to the X-Men. I pick up an issue of X-Men and I'm like, who are these people? Like where's Rogue? Where's Gambit? As much as I don't like, and like Chuck said, a character living for too long, sometimes you want to kill him. I also think that they made the X-Men a mess, and I think a lot of that had to do with the contracts, and I think the contracts with Fantastic Four affected the comic books, and I never kind of got over that with Marvel, that they allowed their movie deals to affect comic books. And I held a grudge about it, to be honest. To this date, I still kind of hold a grudge. Because I don't think they should have done what they did to the Fantastic Four and the X-Men. For those who don't know, basically what they did is anyone who was an X-Men that was under that contract, they pretty much brushed off to the side and hid. Because they didn't like what was going on, except for Deadpool, who made him a lot of money. So that's why you saw a lot of the characters like Gambit and Rogue, they destroyed those characters. I'm still upset about that. There goes me being a fan. But let's move on to the next one. Bucky is okay with the choice. As Chuck said, he's a horrible person. Like, I never understood in the comics why he got the shield to begin with. You know, that'd be like handing the hammer to Deadpool and expecting Deadpool to be able to pick up the hammer. Though, Deadpool's crazy enough that he might really think he's worthy of it.
I think it was a cool move, and the thing is that I can't remember who did it at the time, but his entire 25 books or whatever, everything aimed toward that eventually happening. I mean, Bucky came back from the dead, and they built that character up, and they did all that stuff, and so his whole run aimed for that to eventually come to fruition. So he built that happening, and that's the thing, is that as writers, that's something that we're able to do, but it doesn't mean that it still means that in a sense it's forced. Yeah. And so I think in the MCU at least, it doesn't make sense for him to be Captain America
because he didn't have the hero's journey. He didn't get to have that hero's journey yet to develop him.
Exactly.
Yeah, because the last time we saw him, he was hiding in a shed.
Yeah.
That's basically where he's at. He just got a new arm back, and that's what he's doing. One last comment from our chat in the official thread is Brian says AT&T doesn't know what to do with DC or comics. I don't know. Do you guys think that's true? Do you think DC movies are... I like DC movies. See, that's the problem. I actually enjoy all the DC movies. I don't have a problem with any of them. I have problems like I have problems with Endgame, but I like the DC movies. What do you guys think? Are you guys fans of DC? All right, Chuck, you're dead to me.
I just want the job.
I've actually enjoyed the DC movies. I thought the DC movies have actually come out pretty well recently.
All right, Steph.
I'm a DC fangirl. I mean, I make that no secret. I'm much more a DC fan than Marvel. It doesn't mean that I don't like Marvel, but I actually enjoyed the last couple of DC movies. They are what they are. You can't say, oh, they're not. It's comparing apples and oranges. And I enjoyed Aquaman, Wonder Woman, and I think to compare them to Marvel, the Marvel movies is just it's an impossible feat to do. But I'm a big DC fangirl. That's my jam. So I'm a little biased.
And Varian, do you think do you dig the DC movies?
I do. I think they're okay. I mean, they read the movies are as different from the Marvel movies as DC comics are from Marvel comics. So they're different. I did like Aquaman. But what's funny is that I felt every minute of Aquaman go past. I didn't feel that with Endgame. Endgame didn't seem like it was 3 hours. Aquaman to me seemed like it dragged on way too long.
See, I thought it dragged. Endgame, I had points where I thought it dragged, but I was also trying to keep a 4-year-old quiet and dealing with that. So I'm sure that didn't make things easier for me. So I'd be the wrong person. But that's it, guys. We're at the 90 minutes. Wait a minute. Someone just said something, and then I'm going to let Chuck do something cool. Chris Matt said, what about the percentage of buyers, collectors that buy the art? Does that affect the diversity aspect? I love a good story, and that's more important to me than this age. But I do know a lot of people that care about the art. So, interesting question. Do you think people are looking towards art? Do you think art's selling comics? In other words, I guess, is the question, if I'm getting it right from Chris Mad. Does art sell books? And I know
No,
Travis...
I think that people are always looking for merchandising. They're always looking for what can we do in this franchise to be able to sell more merchandise, because let's be real, the money in comics is not in the physical comic book per se. The money in, like you said earlier, Rob, the money in it is how can we sell 8 zillion different versions of a Spider-Man suit as a minifigure on the toy shelf.
Yeah.
It's in the different product licensing. So if there's not something there that can be marketed and sold, they're not doing a good job. So of course I think that art plays a part. That they want to be able to sell that art, they want to be able to sell those toys, they want to be able to sell whatever bed sheets, underoos, whatever they can that people are going to want to buy, like Chuck.
What do you think, Steph? Does art sell? Is the importance of art there right now for comics?
Art absolutely sells. I mean, that's why it's comics. It's a visual medium. I mean, and I say that as a comic writer, but I think that it can't be argued that the majority of people are going to pick up a book originally for badass looking art. I don't know if it's being underutilized or overutilized right now. I just think it's comics and it's art is it's a medium, and that's always going to be what people are going to look at first.
Fair enough. Varian?
As an artist, I sure hope so. Yeah, I've seen some pretty bad art in some of the comics lately.
Leave my books alone.
Say again?
Leave my books alone.
No, I've seen, like, I've got a couple of comments on one of my streams that Marvel is almost going strict to Tumblr getting artists now. Mainstream books. So
soon you're gonna see Marvel on Tinder. We're looking for a sexy writer, an artist.
Oh man,
we want attractive people to write books because this is what we're trying now. Please don't let us go out of business. Travis would be so mad right now. Rob, they're not going to Tinder. He's going to watch this and repeat. I'm going to get a phone call. Tinder? Really, Rob? Tinder? That's where you think Marvel's going to get people? Well, what do you expect from the Indie Devil? And speaking of the Indie Devil, there's a little other devilish stuff going on. Chuck, tell him about it.
Yeah, okay, cool. Thank you, buddy. Right now, my book, Belial, is on Kickstarter. Sean Barber and I co-created that book. And it's we're kind of in that kind of mid-campaign sort of slow down right now. So we would really love for people to just at least check it out. We have a 5-page preview that's talking about it. And it's all about the original creator of Hell, Belial. And he decides to take his domain back from Lucifer. And so it's an action comedy. You very much feel all of that as you go through the preview. I was actually very lucky to be able to print off a really nice copy of it, of just the first 5 pages, and show it up. And when people read it, they were very excited. And I immediately, at Free Comic Book Day, right there and then, got people to jump on the Kickstarter. So I hope that if you guys will go to Belial, or go to Kickstarter and look for Belial and check it out, that you can see that preview, and hopefully you'll really enjoy it. And from there, you'll pick it up and you will love it like we do.
All right, guys, going down the line. Matt Knowles, where can they follow you?
Like I said, you can follow us at you can follow me at Heirs of Isildur on all social media, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You've got Tales from Nocturnia, which is Tales from Nocturnia on Facebook, TF Nocturnia on Twitter. You've got InSim, NINSYM on Facebook, InSim Creations on Twitter, and soon we'll have the InSymmetryCreations.com website up. Really happy about all those things, and hopefully you guys will come see us at one of the appearances we have as well. Like we'll be at MegaCon, and we'll be at table 202A, and we'll also be on a steampunk literature panel at 4 o'clock on Saturday.
Steph, besides what he just said, because I know a lot of those you guys are both on, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, everything Matt said, and I am Steph Cannon on Facebook. I am Comic Writer Steph on Instagram, and I am S Cannon Comics on Twitter. And aside from our upcoming appearances, we just finished our Kickstarter for Tales from Nocturnia. We're going to be fulfilling that, but we have other things in store too. It's not just Tales from Nocturnia. We've got the final issue 11 of Heirs of Silver will be coming out soon as well. And then we've got The Accursed, our alternate comic title that is coming out next year.
All right, and Varian, talk to us. Where can we follow you?
Of course, on Facebook, pretty simple, just Varian Grant there. On Twitter at KYD_V. I have a website I'm launching, whenweriot.com, which is my personal website with some of my art, as well as at lastcallcomics.com. You can search Last Call Comics across pretty much any social media and find it. That's pretty much everywhere.
All right, guys. Well, that's it. Thank you for tuning in to something that ruined the movie for you, completely spoiled it if you didn't watch it, and now you know everything that happened, and you know how we felt about it, and you don't know how to feel about it because you didn't watch it. Serves you right for showing up to this movie review, and if you wanted us to do more of this, please let us know, and if you don't want us to do more of this, don't tell us. We don't care. We're going to do it anyway. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and we'll talk to you all. What? What, Matt?
Thanks a lot.
We'll talk to you all later on, guys.